I have always wondered if these things really work. This is a robotic lawnmower, and I'm very skeptical that this is gonna do a yard like mine, but today we're gonna find out. And my biggest question with something like this is, can you completely remove the need for you to mow your lawn with a device like this? There's a whole range from super cheap to very expensive of these. This one is somewhere in the middle. I'll put all the specs and stats and numbers for all this down below. But really what I hope to achieve in this video is, can someone take one of these, put it in their yard relatively easily, and then just detach from the need to mow their lawn? Okay, all you men out there, let's just talk about this for a second. I get that we love mowing our lawn. I love mowing my lawn. It's one of the few times I'm not physically doing something crazy and I can just relax. I actually love working on my yard. But there are lots of times when I am traveling, there are lots of times when I'm in meetings all day and I just can't get to it. And then even outside of me, there's use cases for the elderly and people that aren't able to mow their lawn consistently that would like to have a nice cut yard. So when this company, UBHOME, reached out to me asking me to review this more, of course I said yes. As always, let's see what's in the box first. Now here's a little secret. I've actually reviewed a few other robotic lawnmowers, but they never made it to the channel. They were such, well, how to put this nicely? Since they were sent to me, I was kindly asked to not put out the review video. We'll just say that. I'm just here to figure out one thing. If you went and bought this, would it cut your yard in a way that makes it worth it? In the backyard, it becomes a little bit more tricky because over in this part off the deck, it's like a triangle. So having to figure that part out can be a little tricky. But the rest of the yard is fairly basic. It does have the lifted barrier as well, over here on this side and all the way around, except for right here, it's flat up against the deck. There's not big gardens or anything in the middle. It's pretty simple. I feel like it should be able to do this, but so far I have not found a lawnmower that can. The biggest thing that's happened so far with lawnmowers is it thinks that it's done when it's like halfway through the yard, and then it starts kind of going random or resets itself or goes back to its base to recharge or just be done. And it's pretty hard to find one in the budget category that can actually do a yard, even as what I would call simple as mine. Okay, let's start by what comes in the box here. So we have the robotic mower, of course, which we'll take a closer look here at in a minute, but it looks simply awesome compared to the other ones I have been sent so far. It's very beefy, lots of cameras all over it, so we're looking forward to looking into that in a minute. We have our charging station right here, so the mower will just go to it, just like your home vacuum, whenever it needs to charge or when it's done. These make a stand we put next to the station so it can find it easier or something like that, I assume. Something part of this GPS setup, we'll look into that. They give you some extra blades here, some tools to put it together, a USB-C cord and port, the power cord that goes to the charging station, and it's very long, 10 meters I believe it goes up to. And then you have some of these screws and stuff to fasten the charging station to the grass. So on the back you get this giant handle for carrying it, which is good because the thing's quite heavy. And I hope that means it's packed with all kinds of goodness. There's tread on opposite sides of the tire, so that should offer pretty good grip, as well as it's a soft rubber. You can kind of see me pressing my nail into it, or maybe it's a soft plastic, I'm not sure. But some of them have been solid plastic, and they didn't do too well with grip, but this one appears to be a little bit less. We've got a digital display up top, a quick stop button up here. Looks like we have sensors up here, probably for the rain sensor. Then you have all the different visions here. You got two cameras, and then one here in the front. Okay, quick correction here before I forget. This is a camera. These are ultrasonic sensors. You got this great big bumper on the front. On the bottom, you have the front swivel wheels, and then down below you have the drive wheels, and of course in the middle, you have the blades. And I haven't read the instructions yet, but I assume this piece comes off here in the middle, and then you have your 3 blades on the inside. So now I guess I gotta read the instructions, and I'll come back when I have the whole thing set up to tell you about how to use it. And then we'll test it. So the setup is pretty involved, but not too difficult. Just be ready for a little trial and error. This mower uses RTK, which is real-time kinematic positioning, which basically takes real GPS to a whole nother level. And AI vision, which means you don't need to install a perimeter wire. It uses satellites for high precision tracking, and AI vision helps it navigate and avoid obstacles. The system is smart, but getting everything dialed in takes a little bit of patience. Everything is done through the app. You get a step-by-step guide that includes video instructions, which come in super handy. And since all of that is already in the app, I'll just go over a few details here. You start by connecting the LoRa gateway to your network. Then you assemble the reference station pole, which connects to 16 satellites and helps guide the mower with RTK positioning. You'll need to install it in the proper spot. The app does a decent job helping you find the location that works. In my case, I had to walk around for a minute and try different locations, and once I did, it quickly locked onto the 16 required satellites. From there, you connect the reference station to the docking station and plug it into a power outlet. Then comes setting up the cutting zone, and this part was just too cool. Wow, this is crazy. So you literally drive it like a remote, and you show it where all the different areas are that you want it to be, and then you can name that as an arrow, and it kind of like geofences it in.
Please confirm the starting point in the app.
Let's just say I needed more practice with this one. You basically steer it around the edge of your lawn. Once you're back at the starting point, it recognizes that and you tap finish. Thanks to the RTK connection and AI vision, it tracks this with surprising accuracy. Just don't hug the edge when you're setting up the perimeter like I did. I pretty much had one wheel in the ditch the whole time, which caused it to get stuck at least 10 times. My thought was get as close to the edge as possible so when it does the perimeter cut, it's gonna actually get all the way to the edges, but that was a big mistake. That said, when it wasn't stuck, it cut beautifully with very little overlap, clean lines, and consistent results. The mower is quick, and you can control the cutting speed from slow, normal to fast. So one thing that I did not expect is all the automation. Like this thing talks to me. Right now it is downloading the software update or a new firmware update. So it says it's at 3%. And you can also see it downloading on the digital display as well. It's a pretty big update, 454 megabytes. So now you can see the exact area that it is, where it's at. It's got a location of the home, the full drawn out area. Oh man, that's so cool. So it looks like here on the app, we can go to partial areas. I'm not sure what that is yet, or all areas. Okay, we only have one area selected, so that's obviously why it's there. In the top left, we have our satellite, our battery, and we have connectivity to everything else, which is great. We can set a schedule. Let's take a look at this real quick. Okay, so choose the dates of the week, check them like that, and then what's your start time? Perfect. You get a record, so you can see when you've mowed. That is so cool. Nice. So you can actually electronically increase or decrease how high you want it to be. And I'm going to set this to 2.4 inches, which is the highest. So you can go as low as 1.2 or as high as 2.4. It's really hot, so I'm going to keep it at 2.4. And you've got different speeds. I'm going to leave it at normal. So I'm going to say first go home. Let's see if we can do that. Going the right way. No problem crawling up on the left even though it's elevated.
Start charging.
Now it's time for its first mow. Actually, I don't know where it's going. I'm just following it on the map here. We're gonna see. I'm not quite sure what it's doing yet. It hasn't started turning on anything yet. What I'm curious about is it's going to start zigzagging right here, or is it going to do the perimeter? Maybe it does that last. So as you can see, it's just been going back and forth here. It's just kind of coming down about 8 inches each time that it turns around, and the grass is looking nice and cut so far. Again, we'll have to wait and see what it does at the very end. I do have it selected to do a perimeter cut, so hopefully it goes and does that, but for now it is perfectly finding itself back on track with its previous cut. And it's displaying on the app live where it has and hasn't cut yet. After it finishes the main mow, it switches to spot mow, where it goes back to catching anything it missed. And I would say it did this pretty well. With every one of these robotic mowers I have tested, there's always been some spots it missed, which is unfortunate, and this mower was no exception. There was a few spots in the very complicated spot near my deck steps that it missed, but in the majority of my yard, at least 95% of it was cut. If you select a perimeter cut in the preferences, it'll also go around the edge of your yard, which I think is a very nice addition. For that to work well though, you really need to have everything set up correctly. My first experience with the perimeter cut wasn't great. It drove way outside the boundary, and after 3 recovery tries in only about 10 minutes, I basically canned it. I figured I'll try it again once I reset the perimeter and do that properly. At the end of the first mow, which took about 2 hours, it still had over 50% battery left. So then came my second attempt. This time I made sure the perimeter was smoother and chose the pole mower option. Pulling it was way easier and much faster. I also relocated the charging station to sit mostly in my garden so it wouldn't damage my grass. Mowing the station requires deleting the mower and restarting the setup, which is kind of frustrating, but it did work. The second setup was significantly faster and easier. The mowing was smoother too. I still had to free it a few times because it did go over and get stuck in my very challenging perimeter that I have on my yard, but the app at least notified me, so I was able to get out there and get it unstuck. And obviously one of the things that is so great about this is I could be here working and not have to wonder if my lawnmower is stuck somewhere in the backyard while I'm trying to get it done. This allows for me to be more efficient on my busy days where I need the grass mowed, but I can't stop working. With previous mowers, if it got stuck, I would never know. It's only when you get to that mid-tier mowers like this one that you actually start getting the app with that functionality, and so far it's been working great. Now let's talk about what I didn't like and what I did like about this mower, starting with what I didn't like. My yard is very tough for a robotic mower. Not because the yard itself is complex, but because I have a 4-inch ditch and a concrete border around the lawn. It basically is a trap for small wheels. If my grass just ended at a wall, fence, or even dirt, I don't think it would have gotten stuck at all. Most of the time, it got high-centered on the concrete edge. Now the second thing was, a few times when it got stuck, the app told me to move it at least half a yard away before restarting. Usually that worked fine, but sometimes, like the one you're seeing now, I moved it across the entire yard and it kept giving me the same error. It just would not accept that I'd moved it more than a half yard away. Next, the voice communication got annoying very fast. If you find yourself troubleshooting or maybe it's stuck and you're carrying it around and trying to maneuver it to get it back to mow again, you get hit with tons and tons of prompts saying things like, the mower is elevated, the mower is on its side, the mower is stuck, move it a half yard away. And they just compound on each other to where if you moved it a couple times and trying to work on it and you just stood back, you could stand there for 15 to 20 seconds while it got through all of these stacked prompts. This seems like an incredibly easy fix from the company to just give us the ability to toggle off the voice communication. It may be there, I just couldn't find it. But it seems like, again, software update, goodbye. Now I can definitely see the upside to it if you don't want to pull up the app to double check that it's charging or to see what's going on with it. But ultimately the app does tell you, and the digital screen on top also tells you what it's dealing with. So I think a software update to add that toggle would be good. Next, a part of the process of setting this whole thing up is you need to get approval for the reference station location and the charging station location before you can move on to mapping out your yard. Now previously in the setup, I had already set up those locations and got them approved, but the final screen makes you, I guess, kind of do it again, like a final check. And one of the times that took over 30 minutes of trying to move it around and trying to figure out why in the world, and I still don't really know how I got it to go through that, but that was kind of frustrating. And lastly, the cord between the charging station and the reference station is so short. They want you to have the reference station out where satellites can view it and everything easily, yet you really can't even take it more than a couple feet away from the charging station because of how short the cord is. So obviously, I'm not going to put the charging station on my grass because that kills the grass, and it also eliminates and makes it very difficult for the lawnmower to actually go through and mow. So I kind of put it off of my grass, which means that I can't put the reference station out further where I'm going to get better coverage to help me navigate my grass better. Again, easy fix, just send a longer cord. But like I said, the good thing about these is most of this can be fixed with a software update and just simply a longer cord. Now let's talk about all the things I liked about this mower. It missed very little grass and navigation is really solid. It cuts in straight lines with minimal overlap. It reliably found its way back to the docking station every single time I told it to or when it was done cutting. It's surprisingly powerful. A lot of times it got itself unstuck just by brute force. It doesn't need a boundary wire. Using RTK and AI Vision, you can simply drive it or pull it around your yard to define the mowing areas quickly and precisely. It handles obstacles very well. Every obstacle I tested in front of it was avoided, and it even went back to cut around the other sides of it, unlike many of the other mowers that just assume the obstacle continues all the way across the yard. You can create multiple maps, so you don't have to mow the entire section if you want, and you can select between the different maps. You could even create one for your front yard and your backyard or side
side yard. Personally, I felt like the app was pretty great. You can watch it live while it's mowing, get alerts if there's an issue, and schedule mow times. You can set geofencing or no-go zones, which works great for keeping it from places like flower beds or kids' playing area. It's surprisingly smart. Watching it figure out how to get into tricky areas and finish mowing was genuinely fascinating. And finally, it just looks cool, sleek, modern, and way more fun to watch than I expected. So at the end of the day, I think the biggest key to success here is getting the base and reference station in the right location. Some yards will be more forgiving than others on this, but once it's all set up properly, I'd say yes, this mower works as advertised. If you enjoyed this video in any way, please give me a like, it really helps me out, and I'll see you on the next one.